The protagonist Jay and his friends grew up in a small town situated near a power plant. The construction of the nuclear plant had promised a brighter future, offering employment and stable living conditions to the people of the town. But it came at the cost of decline in tourism and fishery, and it also forced people to have no other choice than to work at the power plant. Jay finds himself trapped in a job he despises, yearning for an escape, but he feels a strong sense of obligation towards his family. Despite his desire to leave, he tells his girlfriend, Yeon, about his plans to relocate abroad. This angers her, as she had no one else other than him to rely on in this town. Even Jay's mother opposed his decision, cause she thought of him as a lazy and incompetent person who lost his father and brother's accident compensation by starting a business. Frustrated by his situation, Jay continues his work at the nuclear plant. However, one day, he makes a daring decision to escape the town, but unknown to him, a catastrophic disaster was about to strike soon that would change his life forever. Meanwhile, in Seoul, President Kang receives a report from Park, the chief engineer of the nuclear plant, detailing critical safety concerns and the poor maintenance protocols. Due to the gravity of the situation, Park's wife delivers the report directly to the president, as many high-ranking officials, including the prime minister, were actively attempting to bury this report. Armed with this knowledge, President Kang summons the prime minister to address the alarming report. However, the prime minister defends his actions by explaining that he quickly pushed through the nuclear power plant bill in an effort to improve the national economy. The disaster begins with a powerful earthquake, measuring 6.1 magnitude, shaking the town and causing significant damage to the nuclear power plant. Concerned for his family, Jay quickly contacts them to ensure their safety. Unfortunately, one of the valves at the plant gets damaged, requiring immediate repair. Aware of the importance of the situation, Park, the chief engineer, returns to the plant to assess the damage. The engineers quickly work on repairing the valve, unaware of the rapidly increasing pressure building up inside the pipe. A while later, the nuclear pipe bursts, causing injuries to one of the engineers and leading to the release of dangerous radiation. Witnessing the injured engineers being carried away, Jay remembers the heartbreaking loss he experienced when his father and brother suffered similar fates while working at the plant. Without giving it a thought, Jay gets determined to leave the plant immediately. However, his friends refuse to accompany him, which leaves him with no choice but to join forces with the remaining engineers to repair the damaged plant. In the aftermath of the earthquake, the town bears significant damage, but fortunately, the residents have mostly escaped with minor injuries. However, the prime minister decides to conceal the incident and plans a cover-up attempt to minimize the scale of the evacuation in order to avoid national panic and widespread chaos. President Kang stumbles upon the truth and becomes furious at the prime minister's actions. However, the prime minister's team manages to convince him that the power plant possesses control systems and will soon resolve the issue. Left with no other choice, the president reluctantly agrees to their plan. Jay's family and his girlfriend join the evacuation as they board a bus along with other residents from their town. Inside the control room, the engineers start panicking as they realize that the internal pressure in the nuclear containment is rapidly increasing. If they fail to find a solution soon, there would be an explosion soon. The engineers urgently need to release the air inside the containment, but they face the risk of leaking radiation into the surrounding area. The president chooses to prioritize the evacuation process over venting the container. Learning about this, the workers within the plant become angry and abandon their tasks. However, one of the chief engineers takes charge and seals the exit, forcing the workers to return to their stations. Despite using force, the workers are unable to bypass the sealed door. Due to the urgent situation, Park decides to take matters into their own hands and vents the nuclear reactor against the orders of his superior. Unfortunately, the system malfunctions, forcing the engineer to manually open the vent. In the course of a nuclear meltdown, the pressure within the plant reaches its limit, which leads to a catastrophic explosion. The blast kills most of the workers inside, leaving Jay as one of the few survivors. Jay helps his wounded friends and makes his way out. Along the way, he meets Park, and together they attempt to escape the power plant. The rescue team finally arrives, but the situation was already out of control. The dangerously high radiation levels prevented them from approaching the plant. Despite this incident, the prime minister insists on covering up the explosion, and his team denies any rumors about the plant's explosion to the media. Meanwhile, Yeon decides to return to the plant to see the actual situation. Her gets shocked when she sees the exploded plant, but gets relieved when she finds Jay waiting outside. But rather than leaving with her, Jay decides to help any remaining survivors, despite the high radiation. Ian and the others try to stop him, but Hay doesn't listen to anyone. Park also chooses to join Jay, urging the rescue team to go closer to the plant. Eventually, the rescue team agrees to approach the site and helps lower the radiation by pumping water and coolant to stabilize the nuclear fuel rods. Jay's friends receives medical treatment at the designated tent along with other victims. The dedicated medical team try to decontaminate them to reduce radiation poisoning. Meanwhile, Ian returns to the shelter to assure Jay's family of his safety and shares the real situation with the other shelter residents, telling them to evacuate and move to a safer location. The residents pack their belongings and make their way towards the shelter exit to move further away from the plant. However, the authorities lock them inside and cut the phone signal in the area, preventing any communication with the outside world. Jay continues to help the trapped workers until nightfall. However, unfortunately, he gets prone to excess radiation which causes him to lose consciousness collapse. Without wasting any time, Jay gets transported to the medical tent to receive urgent treatment. Meanwhile, the rescue team faces shortage of water and has no choice but to retreat temporarily in search of a water source. Park questions why they are not utilizing seawater and later discovers that the head office has issued orders against the use of seawater due to concerns over the potential decommissioning of the power plant. This angers Park as it becomes evident that his superiors prioritize the plant more than their workers' lives. The increasing radiation levels have begun to take a toll on the health of the rescue team, with symptoms of radiation poisoning starting to show among them. The situation becomes known to the International Atomic Energy Agency, which alerts other international agencies about the accident. Foreign countries initiate the evacuation of their citizens from Korea, and the media starts providing coverage of the explosion, leading to widespread panic within the nation. In the middle of this chaos, Ian notices that the people assigned to guard them have left the shelter, so they decide to forcefully break down the locked gate and board a nearby bus. Simultaneously, some members of the medical team begin to abandon their posts, leaving only a courageous few who remain to continue providing treatment and care to the victims. Jay wakes up and immediately calls Ian's number, urging her to bring their family to safety as quickly as possible and promising her that he would join them soon. As the road was jammed, Ian had no choice but to go through the opposite lane. However, their progress was stopped once again as they encountered another traffic jam, which forces them to travel on foot. During this chaos, Park gets an unexpected call from the president. After talking about the severity of the situation, and the president immediately decommissions the plant and approves the use of seawater. The rescue team initiates to fill the nuclear core with seawater, resulting in a decrease in radiation levels. However, another issue arises as the coolant level in the fuel rod tank begins to decline. The earthquake had caused a crack in the floor, leading to a coolant leak. If the fuel rod comes into contact with the air, a larger explosion will occur, resulting in more radiation leakage. But unfortunately, the room below was filled with contaminated water, making it a suicide mission for anyone attempting to seal the crack. The president appears on television to address the situation to the entire nation. He pleads anyone willing to assist them in the suicide mission. Jay's friend witnesses the broadcast and proposes to volunteer for the mission. The team agrees because they had little time to live due to radiation poisoning. Jay contacts Ian to inform her of their plan, and she makes him to promise her that he will do whatever it takes to survive. As the team prepares for the mission, Park takes charge as the leader. They are provided with painkillers to alleviate their suffering in the room filled with contaminated water. Each team member has 5 to 10 minutes before their bodies give in to the radiation. Once inside the plant, the team gathers at the entrance of the room. They divide into smaller teams and take turns entering for small time periods to endure the radiation levels. However, the crack in the structure starts growing bigger and could burst in no time. The team's original plan has failed and they start leaving the plant. However, Jay proposes another idea. Instead of sealing the crack, they should block the entrance and create a rupture in the ceiling. By doing so, the fuel rod will fall, transforming the room into a tank. They put the new plan into action, but it required someone to sacrifice themselves by detonating the bomb inside after sealing the entrance. Jay, being the only one skilled in handling explosives, agrees to sacrifice himself. He enters the room and patiently waits for the sealing process to be completed. The radiation had taken its toll on his body. To relieve the pain, he consumes the entire bottle of painkillers. To say his goodbyes to Ian, Jay tries to call her, only to discover that his phone has no service. Realizing that he has little time, he asks Park to relay a message to the president to broadcast his farewell on national television. Yeon receives the news that Jae is going to be on television and rushes with their family to a nearby bus. From there, they watch the broadcast as Jae says his final farewell to his family and apologizes to Yeon for not being able to keep his promise. Once the sealing is completed, the remaining team members make their way outside and detonate the bomb. Ye's sacrifice was not in vain as the plan has worked. Later, in the days that follow, the remaining team members die one by one due to radiation poisoning. Recognizing the bravery and selflessness displayed by the team, President Kang declares them as national heroes. And the story ends.